Howdy ho, guys and gals, it's Red, your friendly neighborhood tool bear, back again here in the old den of tools. And do you know the truth about Kennedy toolboxes? Do you know the history, what they're known for, what they did that nobody else has ever done? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where they started, what all they went through, where they are now. We're going to talk about who owns them, where they're actually made, as well as some rumors about other stuff they may or may not have made. So let's jump into it. First off, though, I want to thank today's sponsor. That is Slick Deals. Slick Deals, of course, the online premier place for finding all the hot, tasty deals out there, whether it's tools or gadgets or just stuff for the home, all sorts of stuff. They've got, I think it's 12 or 13 million users out there actively finding and posting all the hot deals that you want. Now, to make it easier, Slick Deals has recently come out with their own free browser extension. There's no cost or anything. You just click right here, add it. It'll add to Chrome or any of the major browsers out there, and before you know it, it'll allow you to easily find all sorts of hot deals like this one here. Check this out: 61 inch by 22 inch. This is a Husky. Look at that. This is a 61 inch workbench for less than $500. That's almost $160 off. That is a stellar deal on a cabinet like this. This is a great home gamer kind of stuff. If you need a big workspace, if you need some mixed storage, this is definitely the way to go. Look, you got the cabinet on the side. You got a ton of drawers. You got one giant drawer across the front. What a great setup there. This is a great option here. All right, now that said, let's jump into what we're talking about, and that is a different kind of tool cabinet, and that is Kennedy. Now, they have been the go-to for machinists for years, but lots of people use these toolboxes. They've been all around. You see the lunchbox style. We've seen all that. They open up like this. You got all the nice flat drawers. One of the reasons why machinists love it. This is what you see when you think about a Kennedy toolbox today. The unmistakable brown wrinkle kind of paint that's on it. The many thin drawers, that kind of thing. You know, because as I said, machinists often use a lot of little flat tools, and they like to be organized. Boy, do they ever. But as I said, it's not just machinists that use these tools. A lot of people do. Kennedy Manufacturing is the company behind this that has made this, and they've been around for over 100 years. Their signature series is the brown wrinkle cut, and you'll find the Kennedy signature usually on the top lid up over there. And they make all these fine kind of toolboxes. These are not inexpensive toolboxes. $1,359 for a 26-inch 11 drawer. That is not a budget box by any means. The bottom roller boxes cost about the same. When they're in stock, they sell out so fast. They can be hard to get at times. Now, that said, here's what you need to understand. Prior to Kennedy, this is what your average toolbox looked like. They were all wood. Everyone used them. And today they're often copied by people like Harbor Freight and others. And it's not a bad little toolbox. But, you know, back in the day, as I said, wood toolboxes were where it's at. It was Kennedy that invented the metal toolbox. Raise your paw if you knew that, because I'll be honest, I didn't know that prior to looking into the history of this. I'd never really thought about who invented the metal toolbox in 1911. Founded by Charles and Howard Kennedy brothers. They decided to put together the first, actually they originally called it a metal suitcase of all things. As you can see here, this is from Kennedy's own history there, that it was in 1909, Howard Kennedy, an engineer with the Pennsylvania Railroad, became an inventor born from need. He got tired of the standard fabric cloth tool holders, which weren't protecting his gear, and so he designed a, as he called it, metal suitcase. Other engineers saw this and said, that's a great thing. His brother, who was in advertising, saw this and was like, we need to make a business out of this. And in 1911, they founded the company. Originally, from rumor says, the original 1911 toolbox held, I believe it was 7 wrenches plus 1 in the chamber. I could be wrong on that. Anyway, it's a joke, folks. It's a joke. Get over it. All right, and they started in Fort Wayne, but in 1914, they moved literally just across the border over into Van Wert, Ohio. Now, this is when they started coming up with what they called the Kennedy kits. So Kennedy Manufacturing was the name of the company, but the toolboxes themselves were called Kennedy kits. And if you find one with a logo like that on it, you know you've got one of the old toolboxes. Now, how much one of these go for? Back in the day, this is an advertisement from 1920, and they sold for $1.60. Now, even with inflation calculated in, that would only come out to like $26 in today's money. So these were a bargain back then. Now they went on to do other things. They made car carriers and all sorts of other stuff. They moved to the Harris Street plant in 1933. They developed the first roller cabinet. Bet you didn't know that. First roller cabinet in the early 40s. They moved on, of course, working side by side with Building America and manufacturing and machining. They came out with their own version of the old tool truck. You know how the bear feels about tool trucks. But in 1970, they jumped on the bandwagon as well. One of their coolest inventions, I think, was the VersaCart. This is more of a heavy-duty kind of, rolling cabinet. It allows you to a lot of modularity, and you could take something like this and you can build it out however you like. The larger wheels allowed it to roll over more uneven kind of terrain, that kind of thing. It was a really interesting system. Now, they also then in the 90s, they came out with a more modular mobile customization that looks very akin to what we would consider the average tool chest today, or tool cabinet. In 2007, now understand, this was almost 100 years. They lasted on their own. Finally, in 2007, just shy of that anniversary, they got purchased by JVA Partners. Now, JVA is a private equity firm. They're basically just a bunch of people with money that buy companies that they think are going to do well, hold on to them, and eventually turn around and sell them. Now, one of the companies they bought just prior to picking up Kennedy was Homac. Now, Homac is a well-known player in the toolbox arena, and they've made all sorts of stuff like this, and they combined manufacturing for a while, so that they were making the toolboxes, all this kind of stuff here. And again, all of this, as always, made in the USA. In 2011, they did get to celebrate their 100th anniversary, 100 years of made in the USA. They did a company rebrand, just refreshing the images and stuff in 2014. New logo kind of designs, that kind of thing. And in 2015, they came out with something kind of interesting. Wasn't really as interesting for the individual user. This was more for larger business and corporate users, so they could, it's called the e-control system, and it allowed access so that they could basically from a service put out like, okay, here's who has access to these boxes. They can see who's accessing them. It was a real game changer though for the larger corporate clients. Now in 2016, this is interesting. JVA decided to sell Kennedy. They didn't sell Homac, but they sold Kennedy. And as of today, currently, Cornwell still owns Kennedy and does a lot of the manufacturing of some of the top Cornwell boxes. They have 2 plants in Ohio, including, yes, the Van Wert plant down there at 1260 Industrial Drive. They are still making Kennedy boxes and some of the Pro Series boxes for and the Platinum Series for Cornwell as well. Now, this is interesting because at a show in 2019, I was at the National Hardware Show, the biggest hardware show, longest going hardware show in the United States, and I was at the Homac booth. And this is after they'd sold Kennedy off. And when I sat here and I'm looking at this, they're showing me around, and I look over there, and what do I see? Well, those sure look like Kennedy boxes. Well, they're not. They are made in China versions called made under the Homac brand. They look and feel just like a Kennedy box, same kind of paint as the Kennedy box. And the way I was told it by the rep at the booth is that when they bought Kennedy, they got access to all the schematics and the designs, and so they started building the boxes. And by this point, these boxes have been around for nearly 100 years, so the patent was long gone. So when they sold it off to Cornwell, they decided, well, we're just going to keep making them. Now, just to understand, you could still buy the Kennedy box, and you can see there is a significant price jump for the made in the USA. You're going from, $80 for a 20-inch up to $212 for the 24-inch. And you see, this is not a complicated box. It's your standard toolbox with the drawer inside. But if you want to go for something like this, a top box, you're looking at $460 for something like that. I'm not saying they're not worth it. They're totally worth it if that's what you need. Also, they've got, I want to talk about this real quick because a lot of people have issues with when they get scratched and dented and stuff, and they're looking for touch-up paint. This is the legit Kennedy touch-up paint. And if you follow the directions, you can get the crinkle look. It's really hard to do. If you want something simpler, I would suggest the Rust-Oleum. It's pretty much the same color. It's a small patch kind of thing, and it will give you a textured finish that's really close to the crinkle finish, and it's a lot easier to do. Now, one of the rumors I want to answer is that I've heard many people repeat time and time again is that Craftsman toolboxes like this were actually made by Kennedy, and as such, you could get a Kennedy quality box made in the USA for a lot less money. And I want to say, I'm here to tell you that is not true. I'm sorry. This box was made by Emerson. Now, again, it was a made in the USA toolbox. It was an excellent toolbox. It had a similar look, and again, this was well after the patent had expired on designs and such like that, so anybody could copy it. And yes, people in the tool industry, this is common. Don't get all bent out of shape. Every tool company does it. There is not one that is not without sin. So calm down about that. But that said, this was made by Emerson, not by Kennedy. And this toolbox here, as my sources say, was made by Waterloo. Again, a made in the USA toolbox, a quality toolbox, but not made by Kennedy. Anyway, I hope I got some information in your head there so you understand what's going on with this, because Kennedy is a real, American heirloom kind of brand, if you would, being around for, well over 100 years at this point. They invented the toolbox, the metal toolbox. They invented the roller cabinet that tons and tons of professionals use each and every day. And I don't feel they really get the credit for them. They're kind of considered a niche market brand these days. Only machinists really look at them. But the fact of the matter is, they are a quality box that maybe you should consider. I can tell you, honestly, the only reason I don't have a Kennedy box is that wrinkled paint just gives me the heebie-jeebies. It's like claws on a chalkboard. I just don't like the texture of it. But maybe you do. Maybe you love it. Hammered paint, like the old DeWalt hammered paint, love that. Crinkle paint, not so much. But that's a silly thing, really, when it comes down to it, because these are great boxes. And if you get a chance to pick one up, because I tell you, when I was a cub, they were at garage sales and flea markets and stuff all the time. A lot harder to find these days, but if you do, scoop it up, because that's a real piece of Americana history there. Anyway, hope you learned something from this. If you did, don't forget to chomp the old like button. Also, be sure to check us out over on our other social medias. We're over on the Instagram and the TikToks for the behind-the-scenes kind of stuff and some of the more family life, going to the rodeo, going fishing, cooking, all the outdoor kind of stuff that we do. And then also check us out on Facebook, where we got 100,000 members sharing all sorts of deals over there. Anyway, and don't forget to check out our sponsor, and that is Slick Deals, for your very own browser extension. Thank you all for being with us. You all take care. God bless. And as always, shine on.